So one of the most common questions in the nutrition realm or in the fitness industry is how much protein do you need per day to grow muscle? Now, while it's not going to make or break your ability to develop a good physique versus a poor physique, there are some general guidelines you should follow. Now, if you are an overweight individual, a good guideline is about 1 gram of protein per pound of target body weight. So if you're a 250-pound individual and you're obese and you're looking to cut down to about 160 to 180 pounds through fat loss, about 160 to 180 grams of protein per day is going to be optimal for you. Always err on the high side when it comes to protein intake, because too much protein is not going to have a negative impact on you for the most part, unless you have a condition of a kidney condition beforehand. Excess protein is not going to result in any sort of long-term health implications. So always err on the higher side of protein. To take this question a step further, a lot of people are under the belief that a high amount of protein per meal or too much protein per meal may not be absorbed and used for muscle growth. This is partially true, but there is a set guideline of how much protein is beneficial for muscle growth per meal. But in excess of that, it's not going to produce, adverse effects. So it seems to be protein intake is more beneficial if broken up through several meals throughout the day. So if you need 180 grams of protein, divide that by 5 meals. That's going to be more advantageous, breaking it up between 5 meals a day. So I would say anywhere between about 40 to 80 grams of protein per meal is fine. If you're going beyond that, it's not going to produce any adverse effect. It just may not be as useful in terms of muscle growth. Any excess protein that isn't used by the muscle for muscle growth or muscle tissue preservation is going to be converted into glucose. And if that glucose is not used by the body, it's going to be converted into triglycerides and stored as fat. But there is a less likelihood of protein being converted into triglycerides than eating fat or eating carbs. This is why erring on the high side of protein intake is usually a good bet. But keep in mind, these are guidelines. If you have a little less protein or a little more protein, it's not going to make or break your physique. If your physique is lacking or you're lacking in muscle growth, number one, the issue is probably your genetics and your unrealistic expectations for muscle growth. Most people cannot look like a fitness model or a bodybuilder, no matter the protein intake, the training style, the steroids, etc. So that's number one. Number two, you're probably just not training hard enough. You may think you're training hard enough, but you're not. And blaming it on your diet or your protein intake or where your protein is coming from is a complete waste of mental energy. So those are the guidelines for protein intake. Follow those guidelines, you should be fine. If you're going deeper into the minutia of these guidelines, you're just splitting hairs, and none of it is going to make a difference in terms of your results to training. In addition to that, if you're following these guidelines and not seeing very good results, cut your volume in half, sets and reps, double your training intensity. Train harder, train less. And if all those things aren't working, it's probably your genetics and you've reached your genetic ceiling. So any other questions about diet, nutrition, or science-based training methods, leave a comment in the comments section below. If you want my personal help, individual online training, there's going to be an email at the end of this video and in the link below, and you can hire me for a one-on-one consultation and assess your individual genetics, your individual potential, and come up with a plan for you as an individual. Follow me on Instagram, _J_Vincent. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more science-based exercise tips.